welcome. Good to see everybody back. We sat here at the end of last season and we talked about our goal. Not completely different from most off seasons, but obviously we wanted to do a top to bottom and very thorough review of our organization and how we could get better. I think that we had a busy off season. I think that we'll get into some more of the details, and Brad will speak a little bit more to some of those details. But I was very pleased with the work that we did, several changes to our coaching staff and roster. And we come back this year with the same goal that we've had for the last several years, and the determination to get to where we want to be. Like several clubs that have the privilege of competing in this league, our goal is to win the Stanley Cup. And that's where our focus, that's what's most important to us. That's what we thought about on every decision that we made this summer. Does this make us better? Does this help us get closer to our goal? And so I'm pleased with where we are today, knowing that we've got a lot more work to do starting tomorrow and throughout the season, and going through the entire season, getting ready for the end of the year. So with that, Brad, if you want some words, or if you guys want to ask questions, go ahead, Brad. Do you have anything?
I think just before I turn it over to any questions, I've got some injury updates as we get going here. Unfortunately, we've got a few. In no particular order, Connor Dewar had shoulder surgery over the summer, so he won't be a participant. He's progressing and no setbacks, but he won't be starting with us as he continues that. Fraser Minton in the rookie games up in Montreal unfortunately suffered a high ankle sprain on Sunday afternoon, and so timeline unknown, but we're probably talking weeks. Ben Danford suffered a concussion in rookie camp, although progressing quite well, has been out of action, but he's moving forward. Ryan Torberg, shoulder surgery over the course of the summer. We could see him sooner rather than later. And then 2 American League contracts, and Jacob Bankston, young player at university, and Robert Mastromoni, who both, one has a shoulder and one's a groin. Won't start with us immediately, and hopefully they'll be back soon, but that's a quick MASH unit update. So,
if you could please raise your hand for questions. We'll start with Steve Simmons' son.
Brendan, I've heard all your players in here this morning talk about the goal being to win the Stanley Cup, and that's the ultimate goal for every team. And you mentioned it as well this morning. Is there not a step that you need to take as a franchise prior to saying we want to win the Stanley Cup? You haven't had a playoff run yet in your time here in Toronto. You haven't gone past the first round. Normally teams are going 2-3 rounds before, as Florida did, before it got to the championship.
Well, I think every team, Steve, are entitled, whether they've taken steps in the past or not, their goal still is to win the Stanley Cup. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with players or teams coming in and saying our goal is to win the Stanley Cup. We're certainly aware of the results we've had here in the past, and we've come back with the determination to get that job done. But I'd be more concerned if our players are coming in here and saying our goal is to get to the second round, or our goal is to get to the third round. We know that there can only be one winner every season, but there are several teams that are in the situation where they're coming in here and saying, rightfully so, that the goal is to win the Stanley Cup.
Kevin McGran, Toronto.
One for each of you. Brendan, I wonder if you could speak to the ownership change and how that might affect things going forward. And Brad, if you could speak to the contract status of Mitch and John.
Well, we have great ownership here. We have, in my entire time since I've been in Toronto, we've been very blessed with the support that we get from ownership. We don't expect that to change with today's news. We've been communicated with well, we've been supported, and they're very committed to winning as we are.
Luke Fox, Sportsnet. Sorry.
Contract, yeah. Well, Kevin, as you know, I'm not going to speak about contracts, right? So we can throw that one out of the way right out of the bat. But great players. Both have had great summers. We're fortunate, like I said, when I got here, having players like Mitch and John is one of the lures of coming here. When I talked to Craig about coaching here, great players, and hopefully we're going to be great Leafs for a long, long time. But as far as worrying about any contracts, those are things that we'll handle behind closed doors. And if we have news to report, we'll report it.
Luke, Fox Sportsnet.
Brad, what gives you belief that this year's roster can go farther than last year's?
Well, here's what I'd say to you, Luke, is, and I know, even to Shani's point, I think it's important that you have goals in mind, and I think it's good that our players, they've got a goal. But, that's the goal, and you kind of, after today, it's about getting better every day. It's not worrying about winning the Stanley Cup. You can't do that September 18th, right? We have to be process-driven. We have to be focused on doing, and I know it sounds motherhoodish, and I know it sounds cliche-ish, but we have to just worry about trying to get better and be great each day. And if you take care of those details, you'll get to where you eventually want to go. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as what gives me, hope, I think we've improved our roster. You don't hit grand slams every day. Sometimes you just got to keep hitting singles and doubles and picking away at your roster. And I look at it not, getting better isn't because you airlift in a bunch of new people. I look at it, internal growth is the best way you get better in this league. It's not just flying in the great free agent or making 10 trades. I see percentages 2, 3, 4. If we can have that internal growth with some of our younger players and some of the players that were here, I think we've upgraded our defense. I think we've upgraded. We've got the ability to upgrade our penalty kill, an area that was a problem for us. If we look at our team last year, I think we were second in goals for. We lost 21 goals in Tyler Bertuzzi. I look at our roster right now. I think there's going to be some competition. I think we can replace those goals, not just necessarily by one person. I think we're going to have competition there. So I think we can shoot it in the net. For us, it's keeping it out. And I think both from personnel and I think, bringing in Craig and his staff, I think is going to help us in that regard. We've got to check better, right? We've got to check better. And that's not turning our players, taking away the thing they do really well. But, those are the things that give me, that I'm excited about. I think, seeing Joe Wall take another step, having Anthony Stolarz here, having Matt Murray compete for compete in net. I think that can help us be a better team in goal. So those are the things that, when I look at our team, it's picking out pieces that we can be better in. Better on the penalty kill. We got to find a way we got to get to the playoffs. We got to find a way to be better on the power play in the playoffs. But we got to keep it out of our net more than we did last year.
Ryan Kennedy, Hockey News.
Hi, Brad. Just picking up on that, with Joseph Woll, based on what you saw from him last season, what sort of upside do you see there, and how excited are you to see what he can do this season?
Well, I've got all the confidence in the world. I think Joe is one of the top young goaltenders in the league. Now there's a step, right? There's a process that you go through. It's a hard position. So we want to make sure we're supporting him. I think we've got great depth at the position. I mentioned those three guys. Hildeby's pushing. He's a year older, had a really good year in the American League. So I think we've got depth at the position, but I think Joe is really, now there's still lots he's got to learn in the league. And the biggest challenge for Joe's been, quite frankly, has been health. And so those are sometimes you can't control it. But I think he's got great technical ability. I think he's got a great mind for the position, a great demeanor for the position. He's athletic. He looks after himself. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see Anthony. I'm excited to see, like I said, Murr. I think that's going to be one of the interesting things to follow over the course of the next month here at camp, 3 weeks, is the goaltending position.
Jonas Siegel, Athletic.
Brendan, why did you ultimately decide to bring the core group back again this year?
Well, as I said, when we evaluated our team, you know, the question we asked ourselves after every decision, whether it was about coaching staff, defense, goaltending, forwards, whatever it is, the question you have to ask, and we did, is does this make us better? So as you evaluate your options and as you evaluate all those different areas where you can make improvements, and as Brad said, we feel that we have made several key improvements, but the work begins tomorrow. We felt that this, you know, the answer at the end of those questions for each of those individual players was we're a better team with them on our team this year.
Mark Masters, TSN.
Brendan, you've kind of watched Mitch Marner grow up here. I'm wondering how you would describe his significance to the organization, to the team right now.
Well, I mean, Mitch is a great player and an even greater person. I have watched him grow as a young man to a man. He's a special player. Anybody that can get you 100 points and also be one of the top one or two defensive forwards in the NHL means you're a special player. I think other people are coming to his defenses and recognizing that as well. Some of his peers have made that notice, and Mitch has had a great offseason. I think that there's a maturation that occurs with all players at different moments, different times. Mitch has always been a very committed person and very committed hockey player, but I think when you see the work he puts in and you see his love for the game and his love for the city of Toronto, that's what helps you believe in a guy like Mitch Marner.
Lance Hornby, Sun.
Brent, it's been 10 years on the job, I think, for you now. How frustrating on a personal level that you haven't been able to have that long playoff run yet? Do you see Craig as the guy who can maybe correct that disconnect that from great regular seasons to a strong playoff team?
Well, I think that Craig Berube is going to be a big help, and not just Craig, but I think Craig's entire staff, as Tree mentioned, we've got a new person running our power play. We have a new person running our penalty kill. Some of the changes we've made throughout. So I don't want to put it all on Craig, but changing your head coach and changing really almost the entire coaching staff and people that Craig wanted here with him, I think can have a profound effect on a group. And so he's been great since he's come in. I think that the players have gotten to know him a little bit over the summer. And there's going to be some changes. I expect there to be some adjustments with our players because I do think sometimes with change comes adjustment. I don't know that it's going to be smooth every day, but as Tree pointed out before, that's why you have these days in the regular season. We know what our goal is at the end of the season, but now we're going to focus on what we do day in, day out.
We'll do 3 more questions. Chris Johnson, Josh Cloak, and Josh Clipton.
Hi, Brendan. Obviously, an ownership change is a significant thing for an organization. I'm wondering, for you personally, on a day-to-day basis, how you expect that to impact your job and what you do.
I don't really think it changes anything. As I said, what's most important to me, and it has been from the day I've been hired to today, is how can I contribute to making the Maple Leafs better? How can we get to our ultimate goal of winning the Stanley Cup? And I'm not afraid to talk about the Stanley Cup. I think you have to have that goal. I know that there's a day-to-day job and steps to take to get there. But as far as the ownership announcement today, their focus and their goal are shared by me, and they're very supportive. That's what we want in this city. That's what I've wanted every day since I've been here, and we're not going to quit trying to achieve that goal.
Josh Cloak.
Brad, you talked about internal growth for young players. This team seemed to get older with the additions you made. The path for young players, prospects, isn't always clear on this team. What advice would you give to players like Nick, Easton, young players that are kind of vying for full-time roles here?
Go play well. I don't buy into the path part. It's the NHL, right? So if you can help us win, I don't care if you're 18 or you're 38, play well. Now, we do feel we've got young players that are going to come. And it's not just age, right? Bobby McMahon's a young player in the league. Bobby McMahon, Nick Robertson, Pontus Holmberg, Simon Benoit didn't make our opening day roster last year, if I remember correctly, and maybe another 1 or 2. All played fairly significant roles for our team throughout the year. I look at our team right now, So I'm sure everybody's got, the names on a napkin of who's playing with who. We'll see. We'll see. And let's be honest, like everybody talks about there's competition in camp and come win a job. Austin's going to be on the team, right? Mitch is going to be on the team. Willie's like there's a few guys, pretty sure they're going to be on the team. Haven't talked to Chief about it yet, but they're going to be on the team. So, but there is competition, and there are people in my mind. Easton's pushing right now. Having said that, we all want to put them on the team in July and August. Preseason's one thing, regular season's a different thing. Later in the season in the NHL is a different thing. I think Easton's pushing. I think Fraser unfortunately got hurt. I think he's pushing. I think young Gurbankin is we'll see where he's at. He's pushing. We will make room for young players if young players can help us win. And so don't read into this idea that where's the path? Path starts with playing well, and then we'll make a path. Then we'll find a seat for you.
Last question, Josh Clipperton.
Brad, just bigger picture. Some of us were down in Vegas talking to Bill Dale, and he mentioned that there's an appetite on changing to the LTIR system. I'm just wondering amongst managers, where you sort of fall on it as it stands now in terms of that discussion of tweaking.
I don't like to get into CBA stuff. That's above my pay grade. I think where a lot of that talk, though, has come in is with regard to playoff, with regards to playoff rosters. You have a salary cap of X, and then people come back in the playoff. I guess where I sit right now is you like to know there's always great ideas, and then you forget about what are the unintended consequences. So I think, like with anything, I'd like to get more information of how it would all work and how it would all look at. But as far as CBA, that's a CBA issue. The league does a good job of handling all that. And if or when they ever need my input, I'm sure they'll ask, but we'll leave it at that.